Welcome to another live recording of the Nursing Home Podcast, the podcast that was created to guide primarily nursing home administrators, and by extension, anyone else wishing to learn a bit more about this fascinating, changing, confusing, and challenging industry known as the nursing home industry and everything else that relates to it. Today's episode, we are going to be focusing on CNAs. It is so difficult to staff nursing homes with CNAs. It's always been a challenge. Nurses and CNAs have been a challenge, and we want to get to a guest that is going to help us understand this a little bit better. So we have with us um, Quanisha Bernard, who's going to help
Yeah,
us discuss this a little bit more. I'm sorry, I know the service went in and out. I'm not sure if you blocked that as well.
yeah.
Um, but welcome to the Nursing Home Podcast.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I really appreciate this opportunity to speak with everyone that you have connections with on LinkedIn. Thank you so much for
Sure.
having me.
It's a pleasure having you on the show. So I know Quenisha, I can see from your LinkedIn profile that you're currently with Health First, but tell us a little bit about your professional background. I know that you've been a CNA, and that's going to be the bulk of today's conversation. But
Yeah.
just so that our listeners and viewers know a little bit more about who you are and your experience, can you give us the short version of your professional background?
Okay, so the short version of my professional background is I started off in a nursing home working in dietary in 2006, right after graduating. I then went on to take the CNA class, which was I think it took about a month. That's how long it took back then
Hmm.
for the course. And then I got into CNA work, and I did that all the way up until I'll say about 2014. So from 2008 to 2014, I did all CNA work.
Okay. Now, the work that you did, was this in a nursing home or another setting?
Yes, it was in a nursing home. I worked at the one facility for 14 years and another facility when I held two jobs, them both of them at the same time for about a year. So, but for the majority, I worked at one facility for 14 years.
Wow. So you're in one place for 14 years. The other place you were holding down two jobs. Were they both CNA jobs?
Yep, both CNA jobs.
Okay, so let's I mean the goal of this conversation is two things. The goal is to really understand what it's like to be a CNA from a CNA's perspective. The goal is also to understand from an operator's perspective what we can do better to attract and retain our CNAs.
Mhm.
At the end of the day, a nursing home is a business. What it provides, the service that it provides is care, and the
Mhm.
ones who are provide that care are the CNAs. So the CNAs are the core of the nursing home. So for 14 years, stayed
I think you froze again.
actually, Quanisha, I know that we're live, but I see for some reason whatever could
Mhm.
go wrong is going wrong today. I'm gonna
Yeah.
switch to a wired internet. And everyone who's live, please bear with me for one moment.
Okay.
And I just see that it's unstable and it went out twice. So hold on.
Okay.
Okay, that should be better. Okay, the fun continues. Let's get back into this. So hold on. So you were in the same facility again. Those who are watching live, I appreciate your patience. So we have a few people on LinkedIn and on Facebook.
Okay.
Um, hold on, just make sure that worked. Okay, moving right along. So you stayed in the same facility for, you said, for 14 years.
Yes.
Um, yet, yes, yes, yes. What was it about that facility that made you stay there for such a long time? Did you enjoy it? What did they do right? Many operators would dream of keeping their CNAs for 14 years.
Hmm.
So tell me a little bit about that.
So one thing that kept me at that facility is one, I started right out of high school. So for me, it sort of raised me. I spent most of your time you having a day is spent at work. So the fact that I started off in high school and I was there for so long, it then became like a second part of me, a second family.
Hmm.
And also, I had certain managers there, DONs, and some of the administrators, because as you know, working in the nursing home field, administrators change rapidly. But some of the administrators, but mainly the DON, they nurtured what I wanted to do, and they also brought out what my true passion was and what they seen in me, in regards to the healthcare field. And for that, I felt like they were invested in me. Therefore, I was invested in them as well.
So you weren't just another person picking up a shift and helping them solve the problem of who's going to provide care for the residents. They noticed you as an individual, and they
Mhm.
give you opportunities to express your unique talents. Now, if from an operator standpoint, from an administrator, even a DON standpoint, a CNA, there's good CNAs. There's maybe CNAs that are less than good, and maybe others that shouldn't really be in the facility at all. Um, and you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah.
The point is that still within the role of a CNA, what type you were still a CNA from year 1 to year 14, and
Hmm.
but you felt valued. So in other words, they didn't put you through nursing school to make you feel valued. They didn't give you a job as a maybe they did give you a job as a lead CNA or something like that, but within your role of a CNA, you felt valued and you felt like this was a second home.
Yes.
What did they do to express that?
So, I while working as a CNA, I start receiving a lot of customer service calls. And at that time, the administrator, she received the email that our company was creating a new culture and a new morale, and they wanted to pull some of the CNAs who had the most customer service calls, and bring them down to corporate and talk to them. So when she put me in the office and talked to me about it and let me know how proud she was, for me that was one thing, because I felt noticed and I felt valued for her to even put me inside, let me know what was going on, and for corporate to say, hey, we see you, can you come down here and talk to us and let us know what you're doing so we can make this across the whole company, whatever you're doing on a day-to-day basis, we would like to know. So again, valuing me, seeing me, and acknowledging me by giving me the opportunity to go to corporate and just allow them to pick my brain and let me be a part of something bigger. So for me, that's how I truly felt valued by the management and operation management at that time.
Wow, wow. You were working for a very good company.
Yes.
That they took the time to notice that, and they also knew that the answers lie with the CNAs.
Mhm.
Um, Question for you is: were you paid more in this role as a CNA than not? I don't mean you compared to everybody else, but compared to other CNA positions in the area. Were you checking? They're paying me 15 an hour, 13 an hour, but down the block I get extra 25 cents or a dollar or whatever. Were you up to date with what everyone's getting paid, and did that matter to you?
To be completely 100% honest,
Do it.
it didn't matter to me at the moment because I never checked. I never checked how much another job was paying. I never checked that, I know this is kind of like, not uh uh related to what we're talking about, but my wife at the time, she was working from home, so I
Hmm.
never thought about, she's working from home and she was getting paid a lot more than me. So I never thought, oh, I want to go do that. That was never my thought. Because I was so invested in the company and I knew that at that moment they had my best interest. So I didn't think to. But when it came to a point where, management and administrators changed, that's when I thought, you know, if they're doing this from home and making more money, I can do the same thing. So that was my thought process.
What do you mean that they're doing this from home and making more money?
So when I noticed that, my wife at the time was working from home, and making more money than me as a CNA and my other counterparts, I had other friends that were working from home or working at, let's just say, Amazon warehouse and making more money than me as a CNA. And I was noticing that, my back was hurting, that, I was tired. I was working doubles. And then, sometimes, once those administrators change, um, how can I say, the culture change.
Mm-hmm.
So that's
Mm-hmm.
something that affects the CNAs as well, and no one talks to the CNAs about. Now that we have a new administrator, how can we all work together? No one ever goes and have these conversations with CNAs. They have this big meeting to introduce each other, but no one have these one-on-one meetings with the CNAs and try to, rebuild that culture. So in that midst, you kind of start to lose people. And for me, that's when I started to look at, okay, I have a friend over here that's working remote and she's making way more money than I was making or I'm making as a CNA. Let me try to apply there and see what happens. So that's how, I kind of migrated out of being a CNA.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. But you still didn't go to the nursing home down the block that pays $1 more.
No, no, I didn't. Um, yeah, no, I didn't. Cause by that time, I kind of seen that overall, around most of the nursing home CNA jobs was paying about the same.
Mm-hmm.
In
Mm-hmm.
order to get better pay, you had to do some type of call center or some type of warehouse job,
Mm-hmm.
or work for a health insurance company.
Mm-hmm.
They were paying bigger bucks because to be completely honest with you, for the most part, you almost hear the same things at different nursing homes. I've known one nursing home that I heard great things about that was within my area, so it wasn't really option to go somewhere else that I was facing the same problems with at that current in that current space.
Right. So this is true that um, yeah, the nursing home down the block has the same issues, maybe slightly different. One thing might be better, one thing might be a little bit worse, but nursing homes everywhere are struggling. You
Hmm.
said two things that were very interesting. One of them was the fact that you were not even looking at your rate, and that is, it seems like because you felt valued by the company, by the building, and by extension, the company. Now, not every nursing home administrator or a DON is going to be able to pull a CNA and send them to corporate for
Hmm.
whatever, the new culture program and the morale that they were trying to create, the culture they were trying to create. But the very fact that they didn't come in and say, hey, we see you doing a great job, here's the Starbucks card. They didn't say, hey, we see you're doing a great job, here's an extra dollar an hour to your rate. They didn't do that. They said, here, we see you doing a great job, help us.
Hmm.
And and I think that this is indicative of a, I'm not saying that you are, everyone's the same, right? But well, you're certainly not alone. There certainly are other. This is like almost a universal truth of humanity that we all want to feel important. We want to be important.
Hmm.
We want to contribute our natural talents and give
Yes.
back to the community around us, right? We want to we want to fulfill our unique potential. And when people are noticing that, then you're like in the zone. Like this
Hmm.
is, here I am. I'm getting up. Yeah, maybe I'm not getting paid the same amount as everybody else. Maybe there are other nursing homes which have their own set of challenges, but if I feel like this is part of my, this is where I belong, and this is where I'm doing what I need to do, that's enough to keep you there, and not even to keep you looking down the block. That doesn't mean people should take advantage of that, obviously,
Hmm.
but it means that that's what it takes. Sometimes that might be more important than other things, and you only started looking when the pay got so out of proportion, that you had to look at other things.
But before I noticed the pay, um, it was a change in administrators, and it was I would say a culture change and also an investment change. So it was a director of nursing, and it was I'll say about two administrators I worked with within those 14 years. They started investing in what I wanted to do in regards to career wise. They started to give me certain articles, certain journals. They started to mentor me, and kind of like take me under their wing. And um, that when they left and the new administrator came on, and not saying to do the same thing, but I'm saying, it's just how they have the CNA program with the RNs, and
Mhm.
CNAs to go from CNAs to RNs to LPNs. What happens when you have a CNA that wants to go into administration? What happens when you have a CNA that maybe want to go into engineering, or something different? How are you guys going to continue to mentor those that are giving you their all in above? So for
Mhm.
me, that's why I stayed. And when I noticed that that wasn't there anymore, because now, I'm not being nurtured. And when I say nurtured, I mean I'm not being watered. The flower's not being watered. When it's not being watered, how can you grow? So
Mhm.
me as an individual, it wasn't the pay. It was like I'm no longer growing. So it's not about the finances, but it's about me furthering my career and my mind. So I had to make the decision to move on. And when I did that, it was more so me saying, you know what, it's time for me to just, grow my wings and fly. I've learned and did everything I was supposed to do here and gave what I needed to give. But now it's time for me to, just, fly and just start finding the next step and the next path for me to grow and nurture myself.
Mhm. Mhm. Very interesting. So the disadvantage of using, culture to retain your employees is that the second you have a new culture and the second there's a change, which unfortunately, like you pointed out, and that could be a whole separate podcast conversation of why that is so and how we could avoid that. But every time there's a new administrator, a new DON,
Hmm.
or if a new company buys it, a new, a management company, all of a sudden we do things differently. Then you're kind of starting from scratch again, which
Hmm.
obviously is a very big challenge. Um, let's talk very practical right now. There are many, many nursing home operators, their administrators, DONs who are desperate for to hire CNAs, to hire nurses. And let's just say it the way it is. Many CNAs are doing interview shopping, and the unemployment benefits that are being given out many times. I just know this from Quality Recruit when we're setting up our interviews with our clients, and we know this from the industry that the overwhelming majority, many of them, are not showing up, but they're playing the unemployment game, and that's a short problem. It's not a long term problem,
Hmm.
but the underlying problem that just makes it almost it makes it not manageable. But the underlying problem is like this: CNAs were burnt out through COVID.
Yeah.
They've literally, like you said before, they literally put their lives on the line every single day, sometimes double shifts.
Yeah.
We don't do triple shifts, but sometimes when things are really rough, we don't tell anybody, but
Hmm.
that does happen. And then the administrator comes and yells at them for sleeping on the third shift.
Yeah.
Um, but they've been through that. They've literally held the hands of residents as they breathe their last breath on this planet with no one near them, no family members, nobody, because they were in quarantine. They've been testing themselves with COVID. They've gotten COVID. They've been through everything. And this is in addition to the regular burden of being a CNA and all the physical care, like you said, and the back hurting and being on your feet all day, and the regulatory compliance environment where if you're working in Amazon and you by mistake a box falls on the floor and something breaks, I don't know what their policy is, but nobody dies. I can guarantee you that.
Yeah.
If you're transferring someone on a Hoyer lift and they fall, it's a little bit more serious.
Yeah.
So after all that, many of them have said, you know what, I'm going to leave the industry. I'm going to take some time off. What could operators do today to attract CNAs to, even with the choice of unemployment or the choice of looking at other careers, and get them excited and wanting to come back and provide that very difficult but so meaningful care?
That's a great question. And to add to it, it's not only just unemployment that a lot of nursing homes are fighting, it's agency as well. Agency is paying a lot more and they get to make their own schedule.
Hmm.
So I think for me, working as a CNA, and picking up shifts even during the pandemic, I think for me, what would attract CNAs is, and CNAs that truly want to do it is, of course, pay. I'm gonna go off based off of the area that I'm in and how much they're paying. Um,
Mm-hmm.
okay, they're getting paid $17 an hour. However, they're paying Amazon employees $15 an hour. I get that it's a certain budget that operation managers have to work with and things of that nature. I totally get it. It's a business and a business has to run. But sometimes maybe for a certain period of time, maybe operation managers, if possible, because this may not pertain to all operation managers, cut back on bonuses. I know because I had the privilege of being around administrators and DONs. I know that some nursing homes, they get, some DONs and some administrators may get a 10 to 17, sometimes a $20,000 bonus at the end of the year. Maybe cut back on that. Some I know it's because it's during COVID, they're not having these big lavish Christmas parties in corporate anymore. But where's that money going now? you know why can't you utilize some of that money, or why can't you find a way to bring some type of bonus program about in the actual to become a CNA, not just a sign-on bonus, but something like, if you refer a few friends, you get a certain amount of money, and things of that nature. And I've seen when the bonus program and refer a friend, we've had nursing homes that they're supposed to pay at a certain time, but they don't get paid at a certain time. And what happens is people quit, and then people tell Joe, and people tell Susie, and people tell Tiffany. And when you're in a small community, word gets around. And that's why a lot of people don't come out. They don't want to be in nursing homes anymore because word gets around about all of these things. You think that your CNAs don't know that you're getting a big bonus, throwing these lavish Christmas parties and things of that nature. And yet, you're complaining about pay. And this is just what I heard when I went on the floor as a CNA. These are just some things that I heard, because you could do job fairs all day long. But again, as they'll show up, but no one comes in when it's time to do the orientation and things of that nature. So I
Mm-hmm.
think also, talking to those, I've seen someone that um, it was her schedule. She was the perfect CNA, and she wanted a certain schedule and she wanted a certain pay. You know, um, perfect. I would have loved to work with her, but she
Mm-hmm.
turned down the job because they couldn't give her the schedule that she wanted. Not knowing her background situation. She had I think it was a kid who just passed away. She had another kid that she wanted to attend to. So and she all she wanted to do was make $15 instead of $13. So I think certain things in regards to the schedule and in regards to pay, they need to just take a different look at it. But because they say they pay all CNAs the same salary, but we know that's not true. Make a base pay. If you're going to pay $20, pay everybody $20 unless it's based off of experience. This person had a lot of experience. All she wanted was a couple dollars more that I knew they could do, but they decided not to. But yet she was the perfect CNA. So it's just things, small things, pay, cutting back on certain bonuses and Christmas parties to make sure that you can take care of staff during a certain time frame so that
Mm-hmm.
they want to come in. But when you're working in a community, all the CNAs know each other. So they know who's paying, who's not paying, which administrators slash managers put their managers and administrators before they put the CNAs and nurses.
Well, that's a very full response, and it's almost I could hear years of frustration, and just in what you've shared, and I could also hear there is also a disconnect between what actually happens in administration and what they actually share
Mhm.
with their team. So again, I'm not going to agree with everything you said from a financial standpoint. We could talk about that in a minute,
Yeah.
but let's leave how the facility would get the money on the side for a moment. And if there's time, I would love to touch on that in a moment. But basically, if I understand correctly, if they pay competitively, um, if they promise referral bonuses, sign-on bonuses, and actually pay them when they say they're going to pay them,
Hmm.
because a referral bonus that's not paid or a sign-on bonus that's not paid, it backfires, and
Hmm.
then no one's going to refer if it's not true. and there are challenges, with paying with them. But at the end of the day, if the stuff really can work, but if you don't get it right the first time, it's not going to work. What I'm surprised with is that the beginning of this conversation, most of it was about culture, culture, culture,
Mhm.
and you didn't even look down the block for what the rate was. And I was expecting you to say that if you want people to stay, you have to create an environment where they should want to stay. Not just the benefits, not just the money.
Yeah, but the question was is how you going to bring people in. When once you get them in, it's the culture. You know what I mean? But in
Got
order
it.
to get
Okay.
someone in, if I'm applying at, let's just say, I'm applying at, let's say Event has a nursing home, and then Halifax has a nursing home. If I'm
Mm-hmm.
applying at Event and the pay rate there, let's say it's $17, but at Halifax nursing home it's $20.
Okay.
Right now, I don't know the culture just yet. I may know a little bit, but I don't know how you're going to invest in me and how you're going to invest in my goals. You know what I mean? So,
Okay.
the
Fair.
question was, how do you get people from that interview process, and maybe coming to the interview but not actually coming to the job, or going a few days at work but end up quitting. So with that question is why I stated about the whole, when it comes down to the money, when it comes down to the schedule, when it comes down to referral bonuses.
Got it. Got it. Um, so basically, to get people in the door, it has to make sense on paper. To
Hmm.
keep people in the door, it's culture.
Yes.
Got it. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. I mean, I assume if you have a very strong culture, then the word in in the street or whatever, in the community, it's not just CNAs, but every job, right? The professionals talk to each other, and they've all worked for
Mhm.
different companies, and it's a very small industry, long term care, and you keep on meeting up with the same
Oh yeah.
people. So if you have a super strong culture, I assume that would also. I know that would also, word would go out. I know a particular. I know an operator that has not adjusted their rates, and they're doing fine because
Hmm.
their culture is amazing even now.
Hmm.
And so that definitely is a piece. But in order to get people in, it obviously has to make sense for them as well. Um, Very interesting. So now let's just talk about rates for a minute. I've done this myself as an administrator more than once. I've spoken to the CNAs, and I really wanted to hear what they have to say. And a lot of it came down to the wage scale and how it's outdated. And we did a wage analysis. We looked at what everyone else was paying, and surprisingly, many of the competing facilities did share their wage scale with us, and we created an analysis. We saw some, in some areas we were above, some areas we were below, some areas we were average, and we were able to adjust the wage scale for our current employees. And some employees got ridiculous pay raises.
Hmm.
We had some, and appropriately so. We had a CNA that was there for 25 years. Overnight, got a $5 an hour raise.
Hmm.
Right, every dollar is $2,000. So basically, she just got a $10,000 raise. And there were other people who got other types of raises and changes in their wage. And to my surprise, nothing changed. Absolutely nothing. The care wasn't any different. We still had the exact same issues with people picking up shifts. Uh, True, obviously we were working on the culture. But the reason why we had to do this is what you said, is that there's a bigger problem. And let's talk about this bigger problem for a moment. If I want to hire, let's say I'm paying let's just assume all CNAs are work the execs have the same experience, just to simplify it. Let's say a CNA is $13 an hour. And now I have a great CNA to add to the team. But like you said, she can only work, or he can only work, for $15 an hour. And it makes sense and it's legitimate. If I'm going to hire the new person at $15 an hour
Hmm.
and tell her, don't tell anybody, guess what's going to happen?
Hmm.
Everybody's going to know.
Hmm.
That's the way it is, right? There's
Hmm.
no such thing as don't tell anybody. When that goes out, yes, you got a new CNA, $15 an hour, and she might deserve it, or he might deserve it, and that's great. But once the word gets out that you're paying inconsistently, that creates such drama, and it's not fair. And they're right that if you're paying inconsistently, it's a problem. So the other option is to raise everybody to $15 an hour. Now that's a tremendous expense. If you have one CNA and you're giving them a $2 an hour raise, that's $4,000, right? So if it's going to be 10 CNAs, that's 40 grand. That's very significant.
Mm-hmm.
If it's 100 CNAs, that's $400,000.
Mm-hmm.
It sounds very little, but when you look at it, across the board, it's a lot of money. So that's not always an option. So you're right. Operators sometimes will have be forced to pay inconsistently and deal with it, and deal with the fallout, and then promise that we'll give a raise maybe down the road. They can try to pay someone inconsistently for a limited amount of time. So the first 6 months you get paid $15 an hour, and then it goes down to 13 in 6 months, and then they leave after 6 months. Or
Mm-hmm.
or like you say, they'll have 6 months to prove the culture that's worth staying even for 13. But that certainly is a challenge. But and the other thing is nursing homes cannot afford to compete with Amazon or some of these other jobs
Mm-hmm.
because the reimbursement has not gone up dramatically. Um, I know that, and also, administrators and DONs, it is possible technically to get certain types of bonuses. It does not happen nearly as often as people think it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Many times the bonuses are unattainable. There is a structure where technically they could get significant bonuses, but many times the numbers are much much lower than people imagine. And also, they deserve those bonuses. There's a reason why the administrator is administrator. That's the person who's responsible for everything goes on in the building. Their
Mm-hmm.
license is for everyone's license, so they deserve it. I don't think the solution is to pull out from those places necessarily, but I think that to some extent, your point is, yeah, I don't want to go off here too long, but the point is like this: you're right. They should figure out how to tighten the belt and do something to express financially to your current staff and your new staff that you actually appreciate them being there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Keep your word. If you say you're going to give a referral bonus, give it. If you say you're going to give a sign-on bonus, give it. I know there are places that are offering $10,000 sign-on bonuses for nurses, maybe 5,000 for seniors, like ridiculous things. Actually, do it, and then and then that can help out.
It,
Wow.
I think also that, and I totally understand what you're saying and get where you're going when it comes to the financial part of it. Definitely something where, it's communication where, that gets out, and then people say, well, like I just said, it could go somewhere else, not
Hmm.
not all of it, but some of it. So, that's communication of it, but also being involved in colleges. For example, I go to school right now I'm going to school for my bachelor's. So, but some of the nursing homes are not on college campuses, and
Hmm.
a lot I I'm going I'm right now a part of an organization, a professional organization, and we have, dozens of HSA majors with it, which is health service administration majors, and a lot of them get out of college, and they don't have it's hard for them to get into the program or a actual job career field that they want to get into. So why not do what hospitals and other let's just say like Aldi's, Lockheed Martin, a lot of them are on campus and on a job fair. They're letting them do their internship there, and then they go on to get the job they want to get. Why aren't nursing homes doing the same thing? Okay, hey, we can hire you as a CNA. You can also do your internship or your AIT program here with us. As long as you come in as a CNA, we're gonna then take you through that the internship or AIT program, and then if you're a great fit, you get to move forward. So that's another way to bring in new hires, because it is a lot. And I go to UCF. UCF is a huge campus, and their HSA program is huge, and a lot of people graduate, and it's like it's so hard for them to get a job, whether it's HR, rather it's being an administrator, rather it's working in the business office manager, or rather it's marketing. It's a lot of them that's out there that when you talk to them about the nursing home, they're like, hey, I never thought about that. So that's another way that I feel recruitment should go as well. Get into some of those programs that's health service administration roles, and try to recruit them as CNAs first, and that's how you invest in them, and also they learn your culture, and then they stick with you.
Interesting. So that would be a way of getting them to become a part of the team in a temporary way, though, because they're only doing it for a 6 week stint or maybe six
No,
months or whatever.
no, for example, you got to go to school for 4 years, and
Hmm.
for the most part, if I'm going to school for HSA, I'll say I knew my major was HSA for the past 3 years.
Okay.
And a lot of my friends from my professional fraternity, they knew as well that their organization, I mean that their field was going to be health service administration
Hmm.
for a few years. So
Mhm.
technically, you honestly have 2 to 3 years for them to be a CNA. So they're investing 2 to 3 years of their life, to the company, and then the company then pay it forward once it's time for them to move on. Of course, if they're a good fit. You
Mhm.
don't want somebody
Mhm.
that's going to constantly call off. But if somebody's
Mhm.
been there for 3 years, they've been on time, they don't call, they're not someone who calls off all the time, and they work their CNA job and picked up shifts, and have a great personality. Okay, yes, they could get into the AIT program, or they could shadow the business office manager or do their internship hours there, because the college and you need it to graduate, you have to do internship hours.
Mhm.
So a
Mhm.
lot of them,
Interesting.
that opportunity would be great for them.
So they would want to do an internship, you say, even for a significant amount of time while they're going for their major, their HSA degree, and
Mhm.
then and especially if they have the knowledge that this can help them with their job at the end of their when they get their degree, and it
Yeah.
really could be a win-win. That's very interesting.
Yes, because you have to look at it and admit. I know someone that just graduated, did her AIT program, and she said it to me that everything in school, none of it pertained to being an administrator, none of it.
Hmm.
I have some friends that are in recruitment right now, working for Advent Hospital. Nothing of what he's doing in his bachelor's and now he's in his master's pertain to what he's learning now that he's actually working for Advent Health as a recruiter. Nothing. But when you're actually okay, if I'm a CNA and then you let me do internship hours or shadow you for a couple of days out the week, or maybe one day out the week, and that way I'm actually learning. You're learning more on the job than you are in school.
Yeah, I mean, that also could be a whole separate conversation.
Yeah, but that's how you
Is
can get in the door.
yeah, yeah, are the college degree programs set up in a way to actually prepare us for the jobs that we're going to do, or is it just a way of making the owners rich as we get take on all the debt or whatever it takes, scholarships, in order to get
Mhm.
through it?
But
But
with that being said, it's also an open door for nursing homes to come in and
yeah,
start using that to their advantage.
very interesting. So okay, that's definitely something. So if you're a nursing home, if you're an administrator, if you're a DON or anyone involved is in with staffing, you start reaching out to your local colleges, and especially if there's HSA program,
Hmm.
this could be something that would be interesting for them in order to get some real world
The ho-
experience, so that when they leave and they have their degree, they can get
yeah, the
started right
hospital does
away.
it. Advent Health right now, they hire I think they call them patient techs. Same thing as
Hmm.
CNA, just a different name. They do it all the time. I know an RN right now that spent a year or 2 years working at Advent Health as a patient tech, and she now just got her RN license. They do
Well,
it all the time. The nursing home just doesn't do it.
they have enough time while they're going for their degree to pick up full shifts.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Got it. Got it. Very interesting.
In the nursing
Okay.
home, yeah. But yeah, this
So,
this is great.
so that's definitely another opportunity, to a place to find CNAs that are
Mhm.
actually interested in working. So okay, amazing. So this has been Quanisha. This has been very very helpful. Really getting you know the real information, not holding back,
Yeah.
of what it's been like to be a CNA, and maybe a little bit of a perspective of what operators can do today to be able to win back, to maintain, to retain their current CNAs, and to be able to bring on new talent as well. Just before we let you go, any final thoughts that you would want to share with us
Um,
um, about this topic before we let you go?
I just want to thank you foremost for allowing me to come on. I learned things as well. It's not all what we hear when we're on the floor as a CNA. Um, but so I'm really appreciative of this opportunity because it's going to help me continue to grow. But yeah, just keep doing what you're doing because it's um this topic is a hot topic right now. So
Yeah.
I enjoy all of your posts.
All right, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. It is a hot topic, like you said, and this is actually you brought up another point right now. Let's just end with that.
Mhm.
Is that effective communication goes a long way.
Yeah.
If it's really true that you can't adjust your wages for the CNAs, and you really want to, you can either just not address it, or you could call them together and say, here's what you guys deserve. You're getting paid at this rate. You really deserve to get paid at this rate. And this is
Hmm.
what we need from the nursing home perspective in order to do that. Here's why we cannot do this right now.
Hmm.
And here's what we're doing, and here's what we can do. we're going to have this program where we're going to help you with career advancement. And now we have this person, an outside consultant, who's going to come in and help you with that. We're going to help you with, maybe connect you with the local colleges to see what your next step could be. We're going to give you opportunities for advancements within the company.
Mm-hmm.
And when we hit this point, which we're already working on, then we can readdress the pay rates.
Right.
But that's a much better conversation than no. First of all, than no conversation, and have all the CNAs in the break room saying, "I just heard the administrator. I think I saw his check. He got extra $10,000 bonus, and I'm still making $12.50 an hour for the last 10 years. Who does he think he is?"
Yeah.
And which may or may not be correct, and it may not be factually correct, and or may not be the right thing. Those facts should be that way. But regardless, direct communication it goes a very, very long way to
Yeah.
retaining. And yes, we're busy catching our tail, trying to keep the buildings operating and dealing with everything that we're dealing with. But at the same time, our CNAs are our most valuable. I hate to call assets, but human, right? It's the biggest part of the
Frontline.
business, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
the frontline staff, 100%. So just some of those conversations could go a long way. But Quanisha, thank you so much for coming on the Nursing Home Podcast. I really appreciate it. I don't want this to be the last conversation with
Yes,
bringing
of course not.
CNAs onto the show. If you, and definitely, I'm looking maybe even to do a panel of CNAs on the show in the near future, working on that as well. Maybe you'll be able to help me hook that up. But either way, I really appreciate you coming on. Thank you
All
so
right.
much.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
Sure.